to the computer. Switch cameras here. I want to go over the three sort of biggest and sort of misunderstood or need to get figured out errors that happen in part writing. And if you've watched the videos on writing the composition, the song, you've seen there have been some times where I went like, and I don't care. So with a broad understanding that these rules are, they're summaries of stylistic guidelines. What that means is theorists have gone and looked at hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of pieces of music by by great composers and said, this is what they generally do and generally don't do. And that being said, for every rule that we pull up, we can find someplace in Bach or Mozart or someplace where they break those rules because they wanted those sounds. Now, it doesn't happen very often, and these are really good guidelines, but in terms of saying this will get you, a sort of idyllic sound, but there are reasons why we break those rules. And so when we were looking at the composition, because of the speed and the way that the piece sounded, the blockishness, sometimes we left some parallel fifths and things in, and that's an option always. When I'm writing music, I try and get down the music as quickly as possible. It's like a draft mode, and get the parts and pieces in, and knowing that there'll be mistakes in there from a sort of like rules point of view, not tons of them, but some. And then I go back and I look at it and I make choices at that point. And sometimes it's like, no, actually it represents the sound and the lines that I want, and I leave it in. Or sometimes, it'll be like, that does sound a little weak here, and now I know why, and I can make a fix for it. In our class, we're trying to understand, the typical theory class wants you to understand the rules, how to write and check them and fix them and things like that. But they rarely get into the writing process because it's difficult and there's not enough time. And so, we don't ever talk about why one line is better than the other, or when we reject those things. So that's why we're doing partly the composition process on the side, so that you can see that. That being said, let's get through the three kinds of mistakes again. And we've reviewed these before, but it's really important to make sure that we see them a bunch of times, because just because we tell you something and you study it once doesn't mean it's ingrained in you or usable in terms of skills. All right, so to start off with, there was one thing last Zoom class we didn't talk about, was unequal fifths, okay? And the textbook's definition of it is basically when you have a diminished fifth, which you'll see right here in this G, B, D, and F chords, the G7 chord right there. When you have a diminished fifth, and that's between your B and your F right here, okay? And one of the notes is the bass, and then they go on and make a perfect fifth. Now, it's not parallel perfect fifths. We know that's not good either, but because this is a diminished fifth. But if a pair of voices starts in a diminished fifth, moves to a perfect fifth, and one of those notes is a bass note, this is considered not good, okay? So, and even if it's not a bass note, you should consider if you like the sound or not. This sound right here, I'll play it on the piano, really doesn't want to go anywhere but here. You can hear that resolution. Ti, fa, mi, do. So it's kind of jarring when it does, right? You could say on the one hand, nobody's going to die if you hear that, but it's not sort of stylistically its most nuanced and beautiful sort of thing. So this is an unequal fifth. It's a problem when a pair of voices is in a diminished fifth and moves to a perfect fifth instead of collapsing inward like here, right? Fa goes in, Ti goes up, we get do and mi. This is great. This is what we want to hear normally in our ears. This is a mistake in writing, and it's not good, okay? So The thing, and the reason why we left it alone and didn't talk about very much, is because diminished fifths only happen in very specific places. So, and they happen between the third and the seventh of 5/7 chord, right? Between T and Fa, that can happen in a dominant chord. They can also happen in the diminished chord as well. So if we had like a B diminished chord here, but other than that, you know, and it's hard to find them. And so, you know, they happen. They're kind of egregious sounding when we find them. We should be able to pick them out, but you're only looking for chords that have a diminished fifth in them. And so that's the first one right there. How do we go finding these? We just simply look at our music and say, are there any chords that have diminished fifths in them? And that will be diminished triads, right? Root and fifth, or, you know, seventh chords that are dominant sevenths or diminished seventh chords will have them between the third and the seventh as well, right? But usually, you know, in most sort of writing in a key, it's going to be in this dominant chord right here between T and Fa. Okay, so it happens infrequently. All right, and there's how you fix it. Okay, next one, perfect octaves. Whether you move in the same direction or a different direction, if you have a pair of voices, so we have a G chord right here, G, B, D, and G again, that starts a pair of voices in a perfect octave, and that would even include unisons because that's the inversion. Okay, so if it was a unison. And then when they move and they move to another chord, whether they move in the opposite direction or in the same direction, if they end up in another unison or octave, then that's not good. And I put probably right there because you saw through our demonstration videos that, yeah, we weren't good, but I said, fine, I like it anyways. I like the sound. And sometimes, depending on what you're doing, you're forced into that, because if we're only using root position chords and the melody goes G to C, well, that's the roots of the chords as well. You're going to get this. We want to be able to find that and fix it. Okay, there's two ways to fix that. One is to change the melody to somewhere else so that they don't end up in an octave. But if the melody is what you want, then the other way is to invert one of the chords, right? This chord could have been inverted first, so it had the B down here and went up to the C. In this case, I left the first chord the same way and went to an inverted chord here. So my perfect octave right there ends up in a minor sixth right there instead. And so that's fine, although the sound is different between the two, okay, slightly. And this is where we're going to tangent in a minute into and talk about first inversion chords. We're going to talk about how do we write when we're not inverting chord, sorry, when we're not always in root position, okay? All right. Then lastly, hidden and direct octaves. And fifths for that matter. This would be top one here. It could have been a perfect fifth, was an octave. So in this case, we're going 4-1 right here. And I've got two different colors. I don't know how that's coming through on your screens, but the notes are in blue. I've got one mistake in red, and I've got another mistake in purple. Okay, so here's the mistake in red. You see how my soprano and my bass, they form it's a major 10th plus another octave, but you know, it's a major third from F up to A, okay? And then the A goes to the C and the bass also goes to the C. So it's not parallel octaves, but we arrived in a perfect octave right here, okay? And the soprano skipped and the bass moved in the same direction, not parallel because they're not the same interval to begin with, but similar motion, same direction. This is a hidden or direct perfect octave. So when your soprano skips into a octave or fifth, for that matter, perfect fifth, with the bass, and the bass moved in the same direction, that is a hidden or direct perfect octave or perfect fifth. And that's also kind of a jarring sound, okay? We had one of those in the music that we were writing. The easiest way to get rid of that, other than inverting the chord, if you look over here, is to take the note in the bass, right, and go in the opposite direction, because to have a hidden or perfect fifth or octave, you have to have this here at the where you arrive. The soprano has to skip. Maybe you can't avoid that because it's your melody, and the bass has to move in the same direction. In this case, we just made the bass go in the opposite direction by octave switching, and we solved that problem. That can't be done with if they both are parallel octaves or parallel fifths, because you're just changing it to a different octave. But when it's hidden or direct, that's your solution right there. Now, I just want to point out one other mistake in here, and it's in purple. If you look here, I've got a F and I've got a C. That's a root and a fifth. That's a perfect fifth. And they collapse in on another perfect fifth. So this is contrary motion or consecutive, like another repeated perfect fifths. A pair of voices starts in a perfect fifth, moves to another chord, whether it's in the same direction or opposite direction, another perfect fifth. That's bad, okay? Simply changing the octave, like putting this guy up here, won't change the fact that this is a perfect fifth going to another perfect fifth. So over here, here's the solution for both of these problems. First up, we switch the octave, so now my bass is going contrary to the soprano, so it's no longer a hidden or direct perfect octave. But notice that I changed up my composition right here. I went and held the C over, right? So I ended up with a root, and a root, and a third. There's no fifth, okay? But that's okay. It's better probably to have 3 roots and a third than the consecutive perfect fifths and have a more complete chord. So in the first example, the solution was we can use inversions, right? In the second example with this perfect fifth and perfect fifth, we don't have to have a complete chord, and we don't always have to double the root, okay? We can use that as a possible solution to make our lines smoother and happier to sing, and more lyrical, but we can also get out of writing problems with that as well. Remember that we should have a root and a third minimally for the chord that we're on, and we shouldn't, yeah, that's about it. Yeah, shouldn't double, you know, like tendency tones, but that's not going to happen, right? Yeah, I guess, you know, yeah. So like if this was a B chord in the key of C, BDF, we wouldn't want to double the Bs because that's T, or note number 7, which is tendency tone. All right. So non-standard doubling, have a root and a third, don't double the tendency tone minimally, right? Not root position chords, fix problems and give us different sounds. And not only do they fix problems in writing, but the sounds that they can give us can greatly improve our lines of music. Okay, so let's look at that. If I wanted to have a better line for my basses, who have been very patient and have just been sort of jumping around for us all the time. So like, let's say I wanted to go 1, 4, and 5. Okay, and I'll put myself in the key of C, right? And I'm going to go do, well, wait, stems in the other direction. Fa. So, okay. Well, that's fine, but we can consider how much that would help the line just melodically. If I went do, mi, or do, mi, fa, so, right? And so you can make this line more melodic, right? And go so, la, so, mi, right? And then go so, mi, so, mi, so, well, just this line. We're not going to worry about rhythms here, but maybe this could be a 4/6, and then going back to a 5, and then going to a 1/6, and then going back to a 5. We have a nice half cadence right there. Okay, so we can get smoother and more interesting melodic, you know, instead of jumping around lines. Okay, now that's a nice feature. For this example, I am doing this first. it's a little weird from a writing perspective to not make your melody and your harmony first, but trying to show this explicitly right here. But let's write a line that will go with this. Now, what's the best way to do this for you guys? Well, I think the best way to do this is for you to give a thumbs up if you like the sound, okay? So for instance, I'm gonna start right here. And I'm actually gonna put us in the key of C in my ears. I just picked a note. So this is a do and this is so, right? All right. So not that you can't have thirds on the inner parts, but when you're writing 2 parts and 3 parts, it's nice to consider roots and thirds. By the way, if you have a 1 chord here, and then we stayed right here, like so, technically that's a 3rd and a 5th, but we just heard the root, so it's still in our head that this is all complete. So when I say a root and a 3rd, I mean when a chord's introduced, at some point in there, we need to hear a root and a 3rd most of the time, right? And there's always it sounds great without it too. So our choices could be maybe so, do, or so, mi, or so, do, right? And as a composer or a writer, you get to choose that. So we could go like this. Or we could go, or. Now those are unisons. So if we're doing 2-part writing and that's only there, that's a little confusing. If we're doing 3- and 4-part writing, we can throw a root somewhere else in there and that will be fine. And then we can also go, right? Like that. I guess, it's hard to do this by committee. If we were in a classroom together, we could sing them and you could quickly give votes. But do you want to go dun, dun, which is a kind of soft approach at the beginning. We're not moving very much and letting the bass line move. That's nice, right? Dun, dun, has a very opening gesture sound. We could go opposites. Dun, dun. If we do that, we need to have a 3rd part pick up the root. Or dun, dun. Does anybody have a strong opinion? How about I do this? Let's not do these 2. So do you like it staying the same while the bass moves, or do you like it opening up on top? Go ahead and type in the chats and, second option. So Issa, does that mean it goes upwards? You like the upwards one? Okay, all right. Everybody likes upwards. Well, I don't know, Abby, how do you feel about that? I mean, sort of outvoted here, but yeah, okay, good. We'll keep it. Okay, so we'll do this one. Da-na. Now, here's where a little bit, normally I think like write it out and get it done, right? And that helps you move quickly. But a little bit of analytical foresight would be very useful to help you not get a melody that then causes a lot of problems, okay? So here's what I want you to do. We're just gonna check these outer lines for perfect octave problems, right? Perfect 5th problems, right? Either they repeat in some way, hidden and direct 5th problems, and there's no place in here where there's a diminished chord or T is in the bass, right? So we're not going to have a problem there. So first off, let's just check. This is a perfect 5th right here, C up to G. Is this a perfect 5th from here to here? You can answer that in chat. Is that a perfect 5th up there? Because if this is a perfect 5th, we probably don't want to move into a perfect 5th. The answer is no, because E up to C is a 6th, right? E up to C is a 6th. So we're okay. We didn't make a perfect fifth. We didn't jump into another perfect fifth. We didn't end up being in an octave or a fifth here and get hidden or direct because these guys are moving in the same way. All right, 4 chord. Well, you know, if we go like this. Well, here's our choices. So you could go bum, 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 bum. That's a high F. It's super brilliant. We could stay on the C. We could probably go down like that. Okay. Oh, I guess we could go down to the F. But generally speaking, melodies, if you remember from your quizzes in the textbook, like to be smooth or outline a triad or something like that. Okay. So let's see. Right? Or okay. Any thoughts? Or you might be in this situation where you're going like, I don't know, I don't hear anything. Go up to the A. You mean like the A up above? Right there? Last one. So down here. No, below. Okay. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. Or bum, bum, bum. All right. So we have one person for down to the A and one person for, when you say third one, Abby, what do you mean? This one here as well? Okay. All right. So good. All right. So, you know, we're going to take this out just because we don't like the choice. I want to point out why this is not a good choice right here. Okay. Because 2 skips in the same direction should probably form a chord, and G, C, F do not. Now that doesn't mean you can't find music that's effective in fourths like that. It's just, if you had to hedge your bets, this is probably, you know, going to be hard to sing. On the other hand, it might be quite stunning and stirring. I also want to point out we have, if we were to investigate all these options, we're going to find a part writing problem here. Okay. And this is, we're doing this so that you get practice checking. All right. So I have an E here and a C here. This is a 6th, right? That's fine. We don't have to worry about going into an octave or a 5th and making parallel octaves and fifths. There's no diminished interval of a 5th here, so we don't have to worry about making unequal fifths. But do you see that we have an octave right here if we choose high F? Right there, F and F. Whenever you find that, then you need to go back and check for unequal octaves or fifths, hidden octaves or fifths, which is the bass and the soprano arrive in an octave or a fifth, the soprano skips, and the bass moved in similar motion, in other words, in the same direction. So number 1, we arrive in an octave. That's 1 check, right? Okay, that's an octave right there. Number 2, did the soprano skip into the interval? Did it skip to get there? And the answer is soprano skips, right? So yes, that's a problem too. And then did the bass move in similar motion, meaning in the same direction? And the answer is yes. So this would make a hidden or direct octave, okay? And we don't want that, okay? So it's awkward melodically and also makes a problem there. So it's probably not a good candidate. Let me make a pitch for C, because it seems like people like the A. Ya na na. Well, if you don't like the sound of it, then you're going to write the A. That's fine. But if you're on a test here, And I know there's no third in here yet, but root and fifth is right there, okay? The thing that is really good about keeping one line the same for a note or two and letting the other line move is you can never have a voice leading problem. You can never make a mistake there, because when one voice does not move and the other one does move, you can never end up in a fifth and another fifth, or an octave and another octave, right? You can never end up, especially if it's soprano not moving, in a skip, getting into a hidden or direct fifth or octave. So smooth lines, they're so good at keeping you out of sort of trouble with the rules. And so whenever we can, we like to take a smooth line because it fixes a lot of problems. And that's not just true of the melody. That's true of all the voices, okay? So, the other thing is, like, we just went, yeah, no, it feels like we kind of didn't really mean it, like we didn't really love this note enough to stay there, it's like we made a commitment, you should hang around maybe. That being said, it's still, yeah, no, no, it's very lovely, and you're going to get a root and a third. So I have no problem saying, okay, root and a third. Da, na, na. Okay, so now we have GBD here. This is a 10th or a third right here from the F to the A, so we don't have to worry about parallel fifths or parallel octaves or anything like that. So that's fine, right? Okay, so here's my GBD chord, right? I have to be careful not to double the B because that's a tendency tone. That's T, right? Right? I'm on an A. My choices are probably a G, a B, a D, another D, probably, right? Those are probably the only singable notes that I can get to. Like jumping way up to the G is probably not easy to sing up a minor seventh like that. Although if it's in your head, we could try it, right? Okay. Now, before we even try these out, will you take a moment and just see if you can find any problems? Okay. Like, for instance, this is a third, right? So we're not going to get parallel fifths or parallel octaves. That's not a problem. But you see how the bass is moving up by step? If we go upwards to any of these notes, do we make hidden or hidden / direct perfect octaves or perfect fifths? That's when a soprano and a bass arrive and make an octave or a fifth. And they do it in the same direction, and the soprano is skipping. Do you see them there? I've got 5 notes up there, and I can see 2 of those notes causing that problem. The soprano and the bass end up making a perfect fifth or a perfect octave. The soprano skips into the note, and the bass moves in the same direction. Anybody got those? Do you see how if I go to a G, then I've got a G right there? Yeah, that's an octave. I mean, it's actually, a bunch of octaves, but it's still an octave. And the soprano is skipping to it, and the bass is moving in that direction. This is not a good choice. If we're absolutely sold on this, we either have to say, doesn't matter, we're doing it anyways, or we have to change the bass line, or maybe change this note here so it's different, right? So I don't know, but this is from a test point of view, just, it's an outlier. It's not a good option. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do it in your music, but that's like saying, I don't know, that's like when parents and loved ones say, don't marry that person because they're from a completely different culture and you both don't speak the language of each other's very well, and you've only known each other for 3 weeks, and maybe you're soulmates, but there are higher odds it could all end in tears. Well, it might work out just fine. Just like maybe the G could be an amazing place to go, right? But statistically speaking, in terms of writing music, the odds are stacked against it. The odds are You could do that. You could make it work, but it will cause problems in rehearsal and performance in the overall sound, likely. Okay, not so maybe not that. Do you guys also see that this is a D right here, and G to D is a perfect fifth right there? Okay, and the soprano would skip into it, and the bass is moving by the same direction in a step. This can go the other direction right now, but right now our lines are going up, right? So, you know, it doesn't always have to be ascending, these problems. But again, we arrive and make a fifth, perfect fifth. The soprano is skipping into that note, and that's moving in the same direction, okay? Okay, so that's not a good choice. So really, we're left with these guys right there. Knowledge of these part writing rules, saying these are not high percentage plays, can make us sort of steer away from that and not waste time there. For the beginning, that's the G, okay? Or that's the B, or that's the D. And I think the D feels a little bit strange to me, actually. I know Isabella just immediately went there and said D, but like I said, it's okay. It's just, it's really low in the texture. Ya na na. B. Okay, well, we got B and G and D. So here's what I'd like you to do for a minute. You can sing anything and make it eventually singable, right? Like, you know, but will you sing this? Na, 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 and sing the one that you chose. Ya, na, 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 or da, na, na, na. Sing them through a few times. So, do, la, ti, or so, do, la, so, or so, do, la, re. They're all possible. But do you see how the lower one, you know, you better have a great sort of follow up to that to make you go skip up a fourth, skip down a third, skip down a fifth. The idea of a smooth, singable, nice, like lyrical line is getting chopped up there a lot. It's probably better to step into the B or the G. So here's how I would choose this. I would think about, like, where's this line going? Ya da da da, and then is it going down again, right? Keeping going down, or is it da na na na? Am I going back up to da? And then am I going to go up higher and stuff like that? In other words, contour of the overall matters. We don't want to have an aimless melody that either bounces back and forth or doesn't have a direction. So here's what we're going to do. If we choose this B, da na na na, then we're going to go da na na, or something like that. Like we're going to go up, right? And if we're going da na 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 na, or something like that, we're going to take it down, right? And this note right here is already starting to be problematic for me, I think, but we'll get to that in a minute. I don't think there's a good way to come to a consensus on this. Can I just flip a coin or roll a dice? Or do you guys want to quickly chat to each other and figure that out? Flip dice. Okay. If it's an odd number, then we'll go up. And if it's a low number or even number, we'll go down. Okay? So even down, odd up. It's a 4. We're gonna go even number is down. Okay? This is not the best way to write songs, by the way, but you know, it's fine. We have to go one way or the other. Da na na na. So see this 4/6 here? I'm gonna go down. Da na 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 na. Right? And then I'm gonna keep going down. I think that that this had a nice jump up top, and now we're gonna wind our way down to a cadence right there. Part of it is I want us to get going time-wise, but you know, let me point out again here. Like, I want us to get through this. This is an opportunity for you to flex your error-finding muscles. I have a G and a G. This is an octave or a unison. I got to make sure I don't end up in another octave or unison. Since this is going up and that's going down, they're going to be in a sixth rather than an octave. So that's good. This is also my root and my third, which is also really good. Okay. And, you know, because if I went up to the A, it would be parallel octaves, right? And if I skip up to the C, that might be okay, but then I'm fighting with this line here and I don't have a contour, okay? I could go to the G here. Da na 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 na. Fa, re. I think I'm going down like that. Fa, re. All right, I have made a problem. Okay, can you find out what the problem is? I have said I like that melody, but it has made a problem. Can you find the problem? It's either parallel octaves and fifths, consecutive octaves and fifths, or hidden or direct octaves or fifths. Abby's noticed that we've arrived in a fifth, right? Is it parallel fifths? The answer is no, because the first one is not a fifth. What is it then? We have a fifth right here, hidden. Yes, we have a fifth right here. The soprano skipped into it, and we've stepped in the same direction. Okay, so here comes the choice. You might be like, here's our three choices. I like it, and I like my bass line, and I like the sound of it, and I don't care, right? So you're like, oops. And then we're gonna go. That's super hollow sounding right there. But, or you could say, I'll change my melody, or you can change your bass line. Or you can change your bass line. Okay. All right. So in this case, I like this. I don't like the way it sounds. Let's change our bass line. And it will be that. That means we're going to change this right here. Remember I was saying how I said this is a problem coming up? Yeah. So now our bass line is going to go bum, 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 bum. Probably that, right? Bum, because T really wants to go to ba, do, so, right? And we'll half cadence right there. Nice. All right. There is no root here. We'll talk about that later. Okay, like there's no chance we can put a root in here now because we've got a B and we've got a D. Right? And there's no space in between for the G because that's above and below. But don't worry about that. We'll talk about that later. Bum, 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 bum. Feels like yeah. This is a third. That's a third. We're pretty happy there. Okay. And if it's, you know, I think these are our two choices right here. Bum, 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 Just depends on what we're doing next, right? So you sing it, see which one you like, right? Okay. Ya na 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 da na 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 na. Everybody seems to like the D, I guess. Isa, are you okay with that? Hope so. Okay. All right. So we went from a third into a fifth, right? But this is okay because although we didn't go parallel fifths and we end up in a fifth, but the soprano steps into it, so it's not hidden or direct. Now we have like a good line. It starts somewhere, goes up, comes down. It's mostly smooth, has a high point and a resting point. There's no hidden or direct octaves or fifths. It's all singable. There's no parallel octaves or fifths. We have a lot of roots and thirds represented in here. So the functions are well thought of as well. And that's all good, right? Okay, now we have to fill in the middle parts. And, you know, I think this is like oh, let me talk about this real quick here. There's no root there. There's no real way to know that this is a 5 chord in isolation. But we just had the 5 chord here, and we have the G still strong on our head, and you're going to sort of still have it in your mind there. Plus, this could just be a 7 chord, and that's just a substitute for the 5 anyways. And that presumes there's no other sounds going on. Like, what if you have a piano part playing an accompaniment to this eventually? I mean, this is just a rough skeleton, or a bass guitar down here, or a guitar overlay or something like that. The other notes of the chords can be there. So, you know, this is taken with a grain of salt. In the moment, it's good to have your functions of the chords defined by roots and thirds and things, but inner voices, other instruments, those kind of things can give us what we lack in parts right there. Okay. All right. Forgive me, but do you guys have staff paper and pen or pencil? Why don't you write this out? I'm going to write it out again so we can work on this. Okay. But, and of course you have your video of this as well that you can refer to, but grab some staff paper and let's just, let's actually fill in a part right here, like a middle part. Put ourselves a little fermata right there. Okay. And we're going do, mi, fa, so, la, ti, do, so. Okay, like that. Do, so. And that's 1, 1, 6, 4, 5, 5, 6, or 4, 6. And then we're going to call this 5 or maybe 7, right? Maybe like that. This is 1 and this is 5. Okay. So, this is an issue right here because we're so close together that it will be hard not to make some kind of parallel. And if you watched my video for the line when it came right down there at the end of the B section that we were writing and then started to skyrocket up, you know, I had to go to unisons and things like that and break that 4-part or 3-part into something smaller, right? And then explode out again. That might happen right there. And that's just, you know, just physically important to remember. All right. So let's just write for 3 parts right now. Okay. There's 3 of you, or it could be like soprano, alto, and baritone bass, right? Which is a nice sort of high school, or, you know, like 3 parts is great, right? In pop songs and things like that too. 3 parts is like wonderful. Let's write ourselves an alto line, okay, in here, right? So we have a root and a fifth right here, right? So you already know the note that we want here. Can you guess? Right there. Now, you're always welcome to try out like the root there, or to start on G together and just leave the open fifth. That's up to you, because in the end, you want the sound you want. But from a first go, like I'm just free writing and I'm trying to get this down and then I'm going to react to it later, I want this to be, you know, root third fifth, or at least the root and third. So I'll start there and then I'll see afterwards, but we'll just go there. Okay. We have root and third right here, right? Root and third right here. And your choices could be instinctively to go to the G, right? So that you have that, right? Like the root third fifth in there. But may I also suggest this? Okay. Let's pretend for a moment that I have died, and the balance of whether I go to heaven or hell is based on this counterpoint. It's like my life is 50-50, like 49 point whatever times 49 point whatever. And they say, Jewel, on March 1st, you didn't complete the chord in the second chord of the exercise in your Zoom class. And as trivial as that is, we think that is a mistake. And I say, no, wait. The people in the class are dreaming right now. We'll bring them in and have them testify on my behalf. Why is this better than the G? Why is that better than the G? Come up with an argument to save my soul. What does going and staying on the E give us that justifies not going up to the G? Hurry. They don't wait very long in those kind of things. Help me out here. Just, you know, oh no, make something up then. I'm not calling on Fatima to help me out in these kind of situations in the future. She's too honest. She'll be like, I don't know. I guess he's going not to the good place. Anybody? I'm not sure, but it sounds nice. Okay. That's a start. We can work with that. Anybody got a principle in mind that they could say fifth on top? Fifth is not on top. Okay, I'm gonna have to, it didn't work. No, okay, sorry. Let's reboot the situation. I'll give you the answer. It's fine. Guys, we're not worried enough on my behalf. It's a smooth line. So first off, you don't have to have this doubled. Sorry, anything complete, right? This gives me a smoother line, right? And it gives me nicer spacing. Those are my two arguments for why I did it. It's not requisite that we have every note of the chord. This smooth line is really nice because look, I'm skipping there and I'm skipping there. And so somebody's got to be responsible and not go running all over the place. And that would be the altos. Good old dependable altos, right? Now, seriously, let me give you the three reasons. This is skipping up and that's skipping up. This should stay solid so that these two voices can pitch themselves better intonation-wise. The second thing is smooth line like this, as this rises and this rises, gives me nicer spacing here. If I jump up to there, then I still have a bigger gap here and I kind of want to smooth that out. Plus this guy's coming down. So that means I'm going to have to collapse inward again, right? I think that and, you know, also just smooth line. Let's try this from a different perspective. Be as lazy as possible. Oh, wait, don't trust the altos as much as possible, right? Because they'll screw it up. So give them, you know, one note and let them stay there as long as possible, right? No, all of these things are are true, okay? Right, but smooth line is good. Fixing the spacing to be more homogeneous is also very nice because it'll make them feel connected. And that's something to think about on three-part texture because we don't have a tenors kicking around right here. Not that you have to have them be real close, but it's nice. And yeah, like I said, these guys are jumping. So that's there. By the way, you'll never see that in a textbook, right? Nobody will say, oh, choose this because these guys are jumping, but it's a practical thing to think about. Remember our contrary motion voice exchange and similar motion voice exchange? Two voices like either go in the same direction or opposite direction, skipping to each other's pitches. And then the other two voices do nothing. And that's really great because it's incredibly stable. This is stability right there. All right. Now what we're going to do? Now I think you have to tell me why I can't go there. Why can I not go there? Oh, to the F. Sorry. This note right there. If I'm here, why can I not go there? It's not a trick
Step
question.
in the same direction, making an octave.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. See this here? We're in an octave. That would be parallel octaves right there. So that's not a good idea. What's the best idea then? I think this right there. Yeah? I think so. Also, it's do in the key. Mi, mi, do. Nice and easy to sing. And we have fa and la and do. Nice, right? Okay. But parallel octaves would have been bad. Okay. Where's this note going next? And why? Again, I think our choices are here or there. One of them is good. One of them is less good. Okay, you did a bad job defending me. I'm going to make a mistake here, and I'm going to give myself the D right there. And now you're on the prosecuting side. Tell me why, if I make that choice, I'm going to go to composer's harmony writer's hell after I die. There's two reasons. So Fatima, you picked D, which is a 50-50 choice because I gave you B and D. But tell me why that's actually a bad choice. Two reasons. And you can help her out. Abby, Isa, please. Why is that a bad choice? And it's not just because it sounds bad. It sounds bad is because of a couple things.
Does it create a fifth?
It does make parallel fifths. See right here, an F and a C, that's a fifth. And the D and the G is also a fifth. So I would make parallel fifths. That's number one reason why I'm going to go to a bad place. Ah, thank you. What do you mean by it doesn't complete the chord? That's the second reason. See what?
It looks like it's G and you have D, so you need a B on the tenor line.
Yeah, the altos. Yes, yes. So this makes a perfect fifth, which is no good. But if I have G and D and G, do you see I have no third in the chord? So it's going to sound really hollow. It's going to sound like this. This is my four chord. And then it's going to go like this, which is very powerful, like metal power chords. but we really want a B right there. So we have a root and a third, right? We want it to go from here to, right? Okay. So the two reasons are parallel fifths, and then you don't have a chord with a third. Okay. Right. So, things are getting squishy in here, right? Where do we want to go next? Is it really just that, maybe? I think so. We have a G and a B and a B and a G and stuff. So there's thirds. Yep, that's the only place we can go. And then what do we do here? What do we do here? There is a way to do this, but I mean, there's no note in between here in this chord, right? So do we go up to the D or we go down to the B? And there's a right answer to this, and there's a reason. Okay, now I'm going to choose the wrong answer, and you have to tell me why I'm going to composer arranger's purgatory afterwards. Here's the wrong answer. Why? It's something that we've talked about as a rule for writing. Why can I not go to the B? Why should I have gone to the D? Because you already have a B on the tenor line. True, but I already have a D in the soprano line if I go to the D. So why is the B bad to go to and the D okay to? Because there's no other note. Like I can't make this go above or below, right? So I'm going to have to go to one of these notes and double up for a moment. So I do have a B on the tenor line, but why would it be bad to double the B as opposed to the D? Double B, yes. Keep going with that. Anybody help her out or want to type in why it would be bad to double the B as opposed to doubling the D?
It's T.
It's T.
You don't double T.
Correct. B is a tendency tone in the key of C. It's T. And so that's bad, right? All right. So I have to double this note right there instead. Okay. All right. Now I have two notes here. Where am I going next? I'll finish this because we're going to run out of time. I'm going to go to the C. Because if I go to the E, then I have parallel unisons, right? But if I go here, I end up on a unison with the C, but I didn't start on the same note. So I collapse into the C together. If I go D and E together, like that, then I end up with parallel unisons, which is parallel octaves. Truthfully, at this point, it might be okay. We're so close, but there is a way to get out of it. That's to go to the D, so not doubling this, right? And then to go back to the C, which is not parallel unisons, which is they both went D and E, right? And then when I get to here, I'm set up nicely for the B again, which gives me root third fifth, okay? All right, let's play this. Let's see how this goes. I gotta turn around and do this. And then, what is it, this? And then, yep, it seems really good. Another test is to sing all the lines. There's do, I'm gonna sing the alto line, sing with me and just decide if it's easy to sing. You don't have to sing into the microphones because we'll have a delay, but for yourself. I'm gonna play the bass line while I do this line here. Mi, mi, do, ti, do, re, do, ti. It works really, really well. And this is good writing, okay? This feels like the beginning of a ballad or something like that. I don't know. If I was doing this, it'd be a folk song about somebody. It'd go to the minor real quick after this. It'd be about like somebody who, it'd be Celtic, somebody who had a true love who left to sea. And then it's like, but you know, 6 weeks later, it came back that the boat went down, but she still sits at the shores and waits and looks to the gray clouds and sea for the day when her bonny boy comes home, or something like that. It's very pastoral, and I don't know why I'm in a sad, weird mood today, but that's pretty good. All right. Do you see a little better today how knowledge of looking for parallel octaves and fifths, hidden and direct octaves and fifths, and of course octaves and fifths in opposite direction, help inform your choices of writing, especially bass lines and melody lines. That doesn't mean you can just go and do this on your own right away, but you see that. And then also it's important to think about, does the line of music that you're writing in the melody make sense? Actually, do all the lines make sense? Are they singable? But especially the melody, does it have a place where it seems to pop off and be like the focal point? Now, this actually has two nice focal points, the high one at the beginning, and then the place where it comes to rest down below. So focal point does not always mean high, although it often does, right? But it doesn't fight with itself. It's not jump, 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 or jump in odd directions, right? The bass line, do, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, so, has a beautiful sort of contour now. The basses finally get to sing, right? And tenors, baritones, even the altos, mi, mi, do, ti, do, re, do, ti. They all have this smoothness or finesse or interest about them. And, you know, and then we knew not to double tendency tones and things. Now, that being said, when you go to write your own music and things like this, you might make some mistakes. Don't get paralyzed by always looking for problems. Like, yes, look for them as we're going and doing two-part textures, right? And then adding the next line and stuff. But get the writing done. Otherwise, it's no fun, and it's not helping you write. It's slowing you down. It would be better for you to not know any rules and just write what you like the sound of, right? On the other hand, if you know these rules and you can sort of use them as bumper guidelines on the sides to help you avoid some obvious errors, like, this sounds like crap. Why? Oh, there's no third ever, right? Then that can help you, right? Know that we can go back and find things in a pass and, you know, second pass and things, but get the writing done, okay? That's important. Okay, where are we going from here? I don't have them set up for you right now, but in Canvas, you'll see some assignments pop up that say, you know, like we're going to do this short writing exercise, or go to your textbook and do this short writing exercise and things like that, fill in the inner parts and things. And some of it's just rough technical work, so you get good at doing this on your own a little bit, okay? And then doing some checks, and that's fine. We're going to move on to starting to write some lyrics and for the composition. Let me just apologize up front. It's way worse writing lyrics as a group than it is writing parts, like the notes, because everybody will have such diverse ways that they come up with words and things like that. We're gonna play a game where I say, here's the beginning of a lyric line. Now make the next one, and I'll try and give you some guidance, like try and make it rhyme, or try and make the syllable scheme match up or something like that. Sometimes it'll be a little on the nose, but that you're just not going to get a chance to be super creative. And even if you were, we'd have three very different creative things, and I'd have to figure out how to choose one or cobble them together, which is even worse. So, so what's going to happen is you're going to get a chance to do some writing of lyrics, and then I'm just not going to use yours. Like any of them, I'll say, and this is what I did, and here's why. And that doesn't make your lyrics invalid. But most people really get like really paralyzed when they write lyrics. And so I will try and give you a way that makes sense to say, if I write this, then you should write like this, right? And you'll work it out. And by doing it, you'll get a little practice there. Plus we'll see each other's lyrics. So in this next stage of this writing, not only will you write lyrics and then get them rejected, they'll be you'll be seeing each other's lyrics as well. But we want to do that, and I hope that's exciting enough for you right there. Let me give you a quick example of, like, this is way too on the nose, but like with rhymes, I could always control my children's behavior when they were kids, because if we sang one line of music, they would have to sing the next one. And if, you know, for instance, we had a song that was like, when we pulled in the driveway after a long drive, like going and visiting grandparents or something like that, my wife would sing, home again, jiggity jog, right? And then somebody would say, home again, and you have to rhyme with jiggity jog, like ride a big hog, or dance on a log, or, you know, live in a bog, or something like that. And so it was a game we played, and we could always force them into, you know, stopping fighting and arguing, and they could not help but try and continue and fix that. Or we could sing one line of music in a song that they knew and then just leave it, and they would have to finish it, right? So we could see how lyric and rhythm and melody, once it's established, kind of wants another thing to pair up with it. And you can fight against it and do something ironic if you want, but you know, you're still doing that. Like there's some things there. So that's the way we'll go about that. Also, just so you know, I'm going to write a C or third section to the music we're going to do, but I'm not going to include you in that because we're running out of time in the term, and you've already gone through writing these things in 2-part, 3-part, you know, with me, and 4-part on your own, which is part of the curriculum for the class. And what I'll do is I'll write that third extra part, and then I will show you how we cobble these things together and make some decisions. And there, you know, it's going to get used in choir at some point here. I'll talk to you more about that later. We're working really hard to see if we can't bring choir back to campus to sing on campus. And so this song that we're sort of cobbling together will probably get used. And you can then see how it fares on the other side, and what we learn by actually getting things sung. All right, for now, just go back over this video and the content in here and make sure you're understanding the idea of the things we did at the beginning here. These guys, right? And when we wrote, we sort of like, we're looking for things, and you will find assignments pop up tonight, tomorrow, the next day, of read this part of the book or do this little writing assignment, and then start working on lyrics and things like that as well. But otherwise, you know, and tomorrow we have ear training, right? So I will close this off now. You got a bonus 10 minutes. I hope I didn't keep you from going to another class, and that was awkward, but you know, good class. I will see you tomorrow at 10, hopefully. Okay. All right, then everybody have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow then.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.